dear Brussels School of Governance, Vesalius College, Bachelor and Master graduates. Dear parents, dear friends, dear colleagues. I would like to hereby welcome you to this beautiful venue and formally open the graduation of our Bachelor and Master class of 2023. The graduation ceremony this year is actually the first time that we combine our Bachelor and our Master graduations. And it is all based on the big plan to also create an inclusive and representative and diverse student body, which we've also have been able to get back after COVID with the re-emergence of our student government. It actually rose very quickly out of its ashes, as a phoenix, one would say. We find ourselves here today at the premises of the Royal Library, a beautiful historic venue in the midst of Brussels, a city that most of you will probably know rather well by now. It also is a library, and I think that's also kind of an indication of the thirst for knowledge all of you have shown in recent years while studying with us. Of course, a graduation like this doesn't come easy. It takes a lot of work, both on your end, but I'll come back to that later, but also on the end of all of us here, the administration, the faculty, and so on. So that's also why I would like to start with thanking our faculty and our staff to make an event like this possible, but also for all the guidance and all the help they've given you over the past few years. The past few years have not been easy. They've not been easy for any of you with lockdowns, online education, and so on. But let's also be honest, they have not been so easy on us either. And I think I would really like to thank all our faculty, our administration, for being able to cope with the continuous changes that the last few years have required from all of us. And then, of course, while still keeping in mind the fact that you as students also sometimes need a bit more of support. So please join me in a round of applause for all the people that have made today possible. All the administration, all the faculty, all the staff. Thank you. But of course, you were actually the ones that have been mostly challenged in recent years. Whether you start in COVID or you joined us afterwards, you were the ones who actually had to deal with all of the assignments, all of the expectations that are put on you as our students. And I think the fact that you make it here today to graduation only is testament to the perseverance and the dedication that you've shown, the interest in your specific study field. We are convinced that you have now demonstrated to be able to skillfully navigate your course loads, extracurriculars, any other activities you might have engaged in. At the same time, all of this will help you to move forward rather quickly now that you soon will be a graduate of our BA and MA programs. I mean, some of you have started during a global pandemic, and then afterwards we now face a situation in which we can only say that global insecurity has also been rising. Of course, it also poses a lot of questions on the front of diplomacy and security for our MA students, but also legal questions for our BA students in international European law, questions related to the broader field of international affairs, international relations for BA students in international affairs, but also a lot of questions with regards to how businesses will be able to, let's say, navigate all these challenges for our BA students in global business entrepreneurship. So I think if you look at the world right now, the value of your degree has only become more clear. And we need people like you to help us to navigate all these challenges. Your generation has already lived through many crises. Financial crisis, Eurozone crisis, climate crisis, refugee crisis. Name it, you've seen it all already. They span a lot of different issue fields, but it is clear that your generation will actually be inheriting quite a lot of global problems that have been seemingly unaddressable up until now. That's why we truly believe in you. I would actually say that you, or at least our hope, is that you will be the generation that will be able to solve all of these challenges. It's not going to be an easy task, but know that we will continue to also stand by your side. It's not because you're graduating here today that you're not part of our little VCO Brussels School of Governance family anymore. If at any point you would need some extra guidance, some help, just someone to talk to you or give you some advice with regard to your career development, your study trajectory and so on, please do reach out. I mean, it's not because you're graduating here today that we're not there for you anymore. Of course, we're not the only ones. We know that now that you will soon walk out with your degree, it will be a moment of celebration, it will be a moment of a new start. At the same time, do remember those that have been able to help you to get already to where you are and will continue to stand by your side. It's normal to sometimes be in doubt. But if you're in doubt, just reach out to your friends, reach out to your family. Or as I said, you can even reach out to us. But I would also like to very quickly thank all of those people on your behalf that have been able to support you throughout all these years. Your family, your friends, the people that you care about, your loved ones, those who might be here in the room with us, or those who might actually be following this online, or people who don't really care about the fact that you're graduating, but they care about you. These people will continue to stand by your side, so thanks to them. Thank you. We hope that today will help you to celebrate all the achievements you've done, you have achieved now by graduating. But we also mostly hope that this could be a moment that can spur you to develop yourself further, when you continue studying or when you join the workforce. So without further ado, I would now like to give the floor to the Dean of Vesalius College in the Brussels School of Governance, Professor Luc.
Thanks very much, Tim. Ladies and gentlemen, dear students, it's always a very strange moment for me to be here, because for most of the students it's probably to say hello and goodbye, because you probably haven't seen me over the last 3 years, over the last year, etc., because that is indeed the distance from a dean to the students, if I may say so. And of course this is because we have such a staff which is so present and which is so ready to challenge you and to teach you and to learn from you in the interaction of this very specific bachelor and master's program which Vesalius is offering. But I want you to go a little bit back and remember, at least for the bachelor students, September 2020. You know, COVID appeared to have been gone and everything was again relaxed, etc. And we were back in a normal situation. We thought that this epidemic had been gone. Most of the measures were relaxed, etc. And you all followed, again, physically courses, etc. And then suddenly came in, as already Sven mentioned, came in the lockdown, came in the severance, etc. As if a crisis which had been there suddenly re-emerged and affected certainly education in the most dramatic way, with really harsh lockdowns even. And you lived during that period, etc. And now, again, could say nearly a year after the end, to some extent, of the lockdowns, this COVID crisis appears something of the past. But I would like to reiterate what Sven mentioned. You've been educated in a moment of crisis, a physical crisis in the sense of the health crisis we witnessed all over the last years. That crisis appears to have disappeared. But there are lots of other crises which have emerged. As Sven already highlighted, the political crisis, which is certainly of relevance to the master students here. The geopolitical tensions which have emerged. And of course there is behind all this the climate crisis, the crisis in declining biodiversity we're witnessing. So you have a piece of knowledge which will be continuously challenged over the years to come. We live formally in a poly-crisis environment, cascading crises which affect each one of us and which affect particularly the young new generations who will have to live, as already our Vice Dean Sven mentioned, who will recount on you, so to say, in terms of solving these crises and responding to this crisis, whether it's from a legal perspective, whether it is in the business community, whether it is in terms of policy circles, wherever you will be later on after your degree and following further from your career. could view this as an exceptional moment in your lives and, so to say, the life of humanity. But it's also an extremely important period in terms of your responsibilities, because you will indeed be the persons who will have to address these crises. There will be increasingly legal limitations. Remember, we've had, during your period, we have had various new European laws being introduced. The climate law, we have, on the board, we have the nature restoration law being debated over the next months, possibly years. We have all kinds of new elements being introduced, and you will of course be there with the confrontation of having to update your knowledge, to continuously interact further with these new changing rules as they emerge. So this is an extremely fantastic period in the sense of the challenging period you are standing ahead, which will be ahead of you, and how you will respond to it. So, as somebody from the older generation, and watching the people who will in the future have to solve all these challenges and respond to it, whether again it's in the business perspective or whether it's a policy perspective, I would like to wish you all the best. Wish you this readiness to address these challenges, which will be massive, major challenges. And of course, I would like to congratulate, of course, also the parents who must be extremely proud today. These are the couple of moments which one will remember in life, these moments when really one's children or yourself, of course, have made these movements when you get this degree and when these are steps in your further career. So well done, congratulations to all of you, and of course, particular thank to the staff who have survived this very difficult period of online, physical, hybrid forms of education, etc., and who all went through it and now can see what they have produced, so to say, the students, their degrees, the graduation at this moment. So well done and congratulations.
Good afternoon. I'm not a distinguished speaker yet, so sorry about the disappointment. I have the pleasure of introducing our commencement speaker, and I'm really happy to introduce her, not just because of her distinguished career and her being an excellent role model, but also because she has actually studied at Vesalius College as an undergraduate student. Ms. Natalie Powells received a BA in Political Science from University of Toronto University College, and she spent 1 year at Vesalius College as an exchange student during her bachelor training. After obtaining Master of Science in European Studies from London School of Economics and Political Science, and working in places such as Stockholm, Bonn, and Brussels, she has been working at the European Commission since 2005. She is now a head of unit in the newly established Ukraine service in the European Commission's Directorate General for Neighborhood and Enlargement Negotiations. In her career in the Commission, she has held a number of different positions, including as Deputy Head of Cabinet to the European Commissioner for Crisis Management during the outbreak of the COVID pandemic. Now, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I just want to start by saying that I love the fact that you all had a chance to, in a way, introduce yourselves individually as graduates, and it really makes me feel as though I know a little bit about you, and that's a nice way to start before I, begin my commencement speech. So dear family members, dear faculty members, dear graduates, I feel really very honored and privileged to have been invited actually to come today to give this speech. I was also admittedly a little bit surprised because really who am I to deserve such an honor? What could I possibly say to inspire you as you set out on the next steps of your life's journey? I was invited here, I think, because I was myself, as it was said, a visiting student at Vesalius College way back in 1994-95. So as I was preparing what I would say, I was naturally thinking back to that time in my own life as a student and thinking about the lessons that I could maybe draw from my own experience and that I might be able to relay to you, the graduating class of 2023. And of course, it's hard to pinpoint just sort of one part of that experience and that academic year, one lesson that affected most the course of my professional and also personal life until now. So perhaps 3 things stand out, and they're interconnected in some way. And I hope that they can serve to convey a certain number of messages or lessons or in any way inspiration for you. And the first is that during that year, I discovered something called the European Union, right? So, and I know that I'm speaking to graduates of different disciplines, but I guess you've all been studying and living here in the heart of the European Union, and so surely you know something about what it is and hopefully have a bit of interest in it. So as a student of political science and the child of Belgian emigres to Canada, I had heard something about the European communities. Usually that was how people referred to them. And like many others, I really didn't know very much what it was about. I knew that it was in Brussels, and that there were these Eurocrats who were considered very well paid and coming up with laws that affected you, and you might not like them, but anyway, that was how it was. I found it so fascinating, though, that even after finishing my undergraduate degree in Toronto, I went on to do this master's in European Studies. And it didn't really even occur to me to apply to the College of Bruges, which is where most people who aspire to a career in the institutions go. That wasn't really what I had in my mind. I chose to study it with something else in mind, not really a career. I did it because it really resonated with me deeply, with my values. So as I mentioned, I'm a dual Belgian-Canadian citizen. I'm also the daughter of a historian who specialized in Second World War history. And I was somehow always uncomfortable with nationalism. I was convinced that if we were never to repeat the horrors of the Second World War, we had to somehow move away from nationalism, towards something else. And when I learned about the European Union and how it functioned and sort of bringing together 20, then 8 member states, it was this supranational project that for me seemed like the answer, or at least part of the answer. So now, more than a quarter century later, with various crises that were mentioned by Professor van Kerkhoven, a banking crisis, a global pandemic, a war on our doorstep today, and with growing polarization within our societies, I still believe that the European Union is really part of that answer. And quite amazingly, for me, I'm part of it today. I've witnessed how it works from the inside. I have seen 27 and before 28 very different countries, countries with a lot of different cultures, with different languages, with different even sort of ways of doing things, manage to reach agreement with each other on some very difficult issues. And I think that that's in itself really quite amazing, and it's something I'm proud of, and it's something I believe in. It's what gets me up and gets me to work every day, even when those days are tough, as they are now. So what's the lesson here? It is to be guided by your values and your intuition, not to be driven by career ambitions alone, as much as it is good to have those. The second thing that happened that year at Vesalius College, and that weaved its way, in a sense, like a red thread through my life, concerns the people I met. And many of you were thanking people and acknowledging your professors, your friends, people that you've met here, and of course your families. And I mean, nothing really matters more than that. But one of my courses was in security studies. And this was not very long after the end of the Cold War, you have to remember. And I was very interested in that subject matter. And I ended up somehow co-authoring a paper with the professor. Don't ask me anymore what it concerned, because I don't really remember. But in any case, it meant that we kept in touch for some months after I had finished my year here, in view of finalizing that paper and having it published. And when I finished my master's degree, a year or so after that, I was lucky enough to get an internship placement in Stockholm. And it turned out that that same professor ended up being a leader of a research project at the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. And I knew that since we had kind of kept in touch somewhat over that period, so I reached out and said, I'm in Stockholm, do you have a job for me? And he did. So I ended up working as an assistant researcher on his project, making very little money in a very expensive place, but it paid off. It paid off because it led to jobs then in Germany, where I was a junior researcher, graduated a bit from assistant, and eventually became a researcher in other contexts. So I arrived eventually in Brussels, and that's where my two big interests, the European Union on the one hand, and security studies and everything relating to security, sort of were somehow brought together. And believe it or not, that same professor and I were recently back in touch again, some 20 years later, in the context of my work in the European Commission. So what comes around, you know? And from that experience, I think what I really learned is the importance of contacts and what is referred to in professional speak, networking. And some people think that's a bad word. And as an important aside to the women graduates among you, we're not very good at it. It's sort of not a women thing to network in the same way as men. Men seem more comfortable with this. But dare to make that call, dare to send that message. Take up your professor who offered you just earlier in his speech to stay in touch, to reach out when you need some advice or assistance. It's always helpful, and you never really know where that will bring you later in your career and in your life. The worst that can happen is that people refuse, or usually that's because they're simply too busy to answer, not because they're not interested, and actually you'd be surprised because most people don't refuse. They actually are very flattered, and they will find some time in their agendas to meet with you or to reply to your message and to somehow help you out. So don't underestimate the importance of the contacts that you've made here as a student, the contacts with your professors, with other people who will go off to do different things, but nurture those contacts because you don't know what they will bring afterwards. And this brings me directly to my third point. I've been lucky enough to have had a very interesting and diverse and rich career in the European Commission. I was a policy assistant to a director general. I've worked in cabinets of European commissioners. I've been leading teams. I've developed legislation. I've really done a lot of very interesting things and things that I'm proud of. But one thing that has been really of fundamental importance to me and that has sort of remained with me in my conscience all the time is how important it is to keep things in perspective. I really have seen people who let these things go to their heads, and I believe very much that you need to continue to have respect and show respect for people working under you as much as you do for people that you're working for your superiors. I think that you are enriched, and I have been enriched by those kinds of experiences, and I always make an attempt to give something in return to colleagues who are working with me, and to keep in touch with them as well. So this is really a kind of a last but not least message in a sense. It's really to stay humble, to remember who you are, to remember those times when you had to stand in front of an audience and you felt awkward and you didn't know what to say, or you were a bit afraid to ask a question in class, when you doubted yourself, when you thought others were so much more brilliant or seemed to know what they wanted and had it all together. Remember those times when you make it in your careers and you're doing wonderful things and you're an important person. Because the payback, as I said, from just simply being considerate and being kind to others is just so enormous, and it outweighs everything else that you can possibly achieve. So ultimately, I simply want to end on that note that positive social relationships will guide you through your life and enrich you, and I think that there's something that you simply can't do less with. So I will finish here with 2 final words. Good luck. No, actually 3 more words. You'll be great.
Thanks, Natalie. These were very, very nice words, and I think they can serve as an inspiration for not just the students here, but for all of us. Now, without further ado, I think we came to the moment where you've been waiting for quite some time. You will soon be announced as a graduate, or as I like to call it, alumni, because alumni actually sounds like we can still stay in touch, and so on. So it is now my task to convey that the Student Academic Standing Committee has conferred that each of the graduates today has fulfilled all academic requirements for the awardment of their respective degree. We will award the degrees by major, and we'll start with the communications program. So, when your name is called, could you please join us on stage, and then of course you will get your degree. And then also make sure that you turn yourself a little bit around so the photographer here can take a nice picture of you with your program director, and also just a picture with you and your degree afterwards. So, here we go. Bachelor in Communications and Public Relations, Mira et Gabriel. Natalia Anon Barueta. François Tuzet. Kit Man Jenny Wu.
We'll continue with the bachelor's in business. Could I please call forward Daniel Dunges? Congratulations to Nadia Vesalius. I had a debate with Sven before here whether I read in English, in French, or in Dutch. So, Charles Convent. Alexandra Gisek. Numa Hudson. Mohamed Bilal Husseini. Rudolf Corondal.
No, it's fine. We can.
Zoe Noordgat. Sydney Henning. Jalal Saradarian.
If you want a picture without me, you can also just wait a second and then take another one.
Guillaume Schepers. Stefan Schitek. Victoria Thierry. And last but not least in business, Gauthier Wolters.
Okay, now we move forward with the Bachelor in International Affairs. Lara Vels. Felix Gerlin. Beatrice Kermozzi, cum laude. Joel Oksanen. Now let's move on to the Bachelor in International and European Law. We start with Desi Shisaki. Diego Alcantara de Querido. Josephine Caro. Caroline Kijker, summa cum laude. Melina Hesson. Krista Sábados. Lufuno Sadiki. Colin Tuong, magna cum laude. Jonas Wernberger, summa cum laude. Samantha Zlayet. Now we finish with the bachelor students who are graduating. We move on to the master students, and we'll start with the master in diplomacy and global governance. Delavar Aigei. Nadine Issa. Emma Laurent. Marie Mbobet. Rosanna Moroni. Daria Witt. Taylin Reed. Lucas Becker, summa cum laude. Tatum Brunton. Austin Geilis. Gaia Guadagnini, summa cum laude. Joshua Hilkema. Sarah Krimi. Ernesto López Valle. Gabriela and Maria, cum laude. Valentin Pepe. Anne Tau, magna cum laude. Gijsbertus van Doorn, magna cum laude. Now we move on to the Master in Global Security and Strategy. And we'll start with Sophie Blandet. Han de Smet, summa cum laude. Marius Houwen, cum laude. Lana Pedisic. Carla Surak. André Shibukshian. I'm sorry if I made a mistake. Farida Saliu Lukman. Carlos Salvador Lopez, magna cum laude. Marta Sophie Drettenberg, magna cum laude.
Okay, we now have the speeches from the valedictorians, and we start with the VA valedictorians and then move on to the MA. And For the BA, sorry, we have basically 2 valedictorians, but only one of them was able to be here today. But I would still like to mention Jonas Weinberger as well. The speaker for BA this round is Carolyn Geiker, and please come up and.
Ladies and gentlemen, respected faculty, honored guests, and proud parents, and above all, my fellow graduates of class 2023. As we gather today, it's with a deep sense of honor, pride, that I can stand before you to say, and now say, we did it! So business students, you survived business law. I know that one was probably a tough one. International affairs, you survived international European law, I think. I mean, us law students, I think we can say we survived economics, yeah? So we've all had something we had to overcome, but this moment is like a vibrant snapshot capturing the culmination of our journey. And a journey that was started with challenges, punctuated with triumphs, enriched by learning and molded by resilience. Well, that's what ChatGPT wanted me to write or to say in this speech. For those of you who don't know what that is, this is new artificial intelligence in town. You can now write your essays, speeches, summarize large article with a click of a button. Where was that when we went through college? Wasn't there. So I guess to honor this, I've actually written this speech myself. So here we go. Well, some of you might ask yourself, who's this girl actually speaking? Because, I mean, we spent the first, year and a half online. Maybe you saw a little picture of me floating around on the screen, or the last year I was actually in Madrid, so I wasn't around campus that much. But my journey actually started in January 2020. I got, I think, 2 months of like the conventional college experience, but then my mom called me and was like, Caroline, you gotta take the next flight back home to Denmark because the borders are closing. I'm like, what? I just had midterms. What are you talking about? And yes, I know, we have to talk about COVID again, I'm sorry guys, but we have to face it, it was like the first, year of our college experience. A good first part of our college experience was where our bedroom or living room was our classroom. A good first part of our college experience was having to text that awkwardly message like, hey, do you want to be in a group project with me? Don't really know who you are, but shall we? That good first part of our college experience was when our beloved professors, with somewhat patience, would have to repeat themselves and say, can you please turn on the cameras? Please turn on the cameras. And a good first part of that college experience was hybrid teaching and somewhat empty classrooms sometimes. But ultimately, we got the best crash course in adaptability. And hopefully this speech for the future generations will be the last about COVID. I hope we can close that chapter now. But Brussels School of Governance provides a buffet of opportunities for those who are ambitious and determined. Here, I call it VICO because back when I started, we called it VICO, so I'm sorry if I'm going to say VICO. It's VICO to me, so yeah. But you can tailor your CVs with all these course selections and extracurricular activities. VICO offered me a journey punctuated with interactions with eminent personalities. I had the pleasure of meeting Alan Rosas, a European judge. I had the fangirling moment. I met Vrije Universiteit, another Danish, now Vice President of the Commission. And I also met another European Commissioner, McGuinness. VICO offered me an enriching exchange at IE University for a whole year. VICO offered me an incredibly international group of friends. I mean, I thought I was so-called international. I lived 1 year in Alaska, but then I came here and people speak 3 to 4 languages. I've lived 3 to 5 places, and yeah, so after all, I'm not that international. But VICO offered me an incredible start to my professional and academic career. And for that, I couldn't be more grateful, so thank you. And VICO is particular because it lays out this field of internships and career-enhancing prospects for those who sees that opportunity, they'll be there. But I think that's VICO's greater lesson, is that opportunities aren't necessarily just handed to you. You actually have to, with somewhat vigor, and self-initiative actually take those opportunities. So before we step into the future and we call us graduates, let's take a moment to express our deep gratitude to professors. They have guided us through this, put up with our excuses for late assignments, or can we push this deadline another 2 weeks, and all these things that they had to put up with for us. And I especially want to take a moment and thank Professor Henner, who has been here and shaped my journey here at Vico, so immense thank you to you. So as we forge our paths ahead, we may remember these lessons learned and all these friendships that we made here. And I can't wait to see where you're all at in 10, 20 years when we have our alumni meetings. I'm looking forward to that. So, my fellow graduates, on a closing note, let me share a little secret with you. So, I'm really into this technology thing, got a master's in law and technology. So, I'm searching the internet for all these AI things, and you know what? The new trend in town is saying human error is the new cool. So, I guess we're allowed to make these errors. So let's go out, make those errors, learn from them, and then to class of 2023, here's to a future filled with learning, growth, and the promise of great things ahead. We did it.
Okay, for MA, we have Gaia Gain, and she is not only very bright, but she's also very, very persistent and very, very kind and generous. So I'm happy to welcome here on top of the stage. Gaia, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. And hello to our beloved teachers, the administration, the faculty, staff, parents, my fellow graduates. Good afternoon to all of you. I am absolutely honored to be here today and hope to be up to the expectation in my role as valedictorian. A big round of applause to each of us who successfully reached this milestone. And a special thanks goes to all the people who supported me in this journey, from Professor Vesalius, the supervisor of my thesis, my co-supervisor, Professor Liz, and all the Stabilini, who, although from Italy, have always dedicated herself to below ones in time of need, my boyfriend and my friends and study buds, Ernesto and Lucas in particular, for helping me throughout this. On these momentous days, I would like to confide something to you that has little of the glamorous, but much of the reality, and that will help me to convey the message I would like to share with you today. When I arrived in Brussels, my first month at BSOG was a constant chase of concepts and theories that I've never heard of before. I came from an economic background, so everything was very new to me. This quickly has escalated into a series of existential questions like, what am I doing here? Isn't it normal that I have no clue what my classmates are talking about in their speeches? I vividly remember that my energy was spent mainly wondering if I ended up in the wrong course because half of my classmates' debates were a class within the class. Now, as funny as it may sound today, back then my approach was a bit unhealthy, unhelpful, and totally distant to what I think and believe the goal of a master program is: to exchange, to learn, and to grow. But without realizing it, one day after the other, my constant focus on wondering whether I was enough, whether I was in the right place, was replaced by the curiosity of listening to you, my classmates, during your debates, your attempts to read this bizarre world in which we live, applying theories such as balance of power, absolute gains, or complex interdependence. It was you, together with our mentors, the professors, who pushed me to learn, to diversify the lens through I was seeing the world, and to cultivate my new interests. It was watching Luca's hand, always raised. It was listening to Alan and Dia's speeches at Friends of Europe. It was seeing Sophie, Valentin, Marius, and Alan making it to the semi-finals of the Cybersecurity Strategy Challenge. It was witnessing Ernesto's passion igniting the classes with his presentations. It was the uniqueness to each one of you, my classmates. It was professors as well. Professor Lefebvre giving us a nice set of Ds in our first assignment and teaching us the importance of methodology and preciseness and accuracy. It was Prof. Kim broadening our international relations culture in each one of his classes. Professor Claus always being there for our hard times. And all the professors who I cannot mention individually. It was all of this that pushed me to shift my focus from what I did not have to what I could learn and already give. This, I believe, is the real key to turning something successful into something meaningful. To stop focusing on ourselves and instead look, listen, and understand what's around us. Meaningful things, I think, are done together, where our limitations are filled with the strengths of others and our abilities complement to those of someone else. By never getting tired of exchanging, we will be able to overcome the inner battles and the ones that inhabit our world. This does not mean always getting along with everyone, of course, agreeing on everything. It rather means making the most of this precious gift, humanliness, of the ability of being human working together towards a shared goal, which is expressed in the fusion of empathy, verbal communication, and mutual help. This same model, I believe, underlies the resolution to existential issues such as safeguarding the health of our planet. I think this is our greatest opportunity where our future rests, and I want to reiterate on shared dreams, common efforts, on disagreement, expressed in the will to overcome them. And it is here that we must not lose ourselves as I did, in inconclusive questions to give the way to one certainty. Here and right here, I am able to bring forward inalienable values, respect of the environment on which we want to work with respect for each other. It is in this spirit that I hope we will be able to address future issues such as climate change. And here I would like to end my discourse with a quote. Kant once advocated for the environment, leading us back to the moral law by extending it to the finality, not only to human beings, but to nature as well. I must treat the other not as a mean, but as an end. So let us, being humble, in knowing that the world is much more than ourselves, let us pay attention to our surrounding and respect it. Let us respect and reflect upon how we can be part of a better world. Thank you.
And it's now my honor to introduce Emeritus Professor Dr. Frans Bingen, who was not only the first Dean of Vesalius College, but who also remained very closely involved in the development of the college, together with his wife, André Bingen. They established a fund to provide equal opportunities for students of Vesalius College with financial issues, who at the same time were excelling in their studies. So since 2000, yearly there has been the Frans Bingen Honors Prize for the best BA thesis and the André Bingen Senior Scholarship Award. And I hereby invite Dr. Bingen to grant the grant of this year.
Dear Dean and Vice Dean, dear faculty, the audience, and in the first place, since this is your ceremony today, dear graduates, let me first congratulate you for completing your bachelor studies or also major studies at the Vesalius College, a part of the Brussels School of Governance and Except that the real end of your studies is a joyful parting after the ceremony. My wife, André, found that Victor needed additional means to help a few of its students. She insisted to start saving until there was enough money for one scholarship. The program started in 2009, so
already 7 years old. This academic year, the scholarship for the fall was granted to Colin Truong, and the scholarship for the spring semester to Diego d'Alcantara de Kelly. Dear Colin, you came from Vietnam to major in international and European law at VICO. So good is its international reputation. You adapted very well to our mentality and teaching methods. You have been placed on the Dean's list every semester and have currently a grade point average of 3.66. An example of your special activities is your participation during your second year in a video contest supported by NATO's Public Division Grant Program to counter disinformation. You participate currently in the working of the college by being a student representative. Your bachelor degree at VICO is not necessarily an endpoint. You intend to continue your studies. Your main choice is a master program in international and transnational criminal law at the University of Amsterdam. We wish you much success for this second step. Dear Diego, you are Belgian, entering VICO to major in international and European law. Your first year at VICO was very challenging because courses were given online due to the COVID pandemic. As soon as teaching took place on campus again, this changed. Progressively, you got more friends, many you will keep after graduation, and your grades became better. For the spring 2022 semester, you managed to be on the Dean's list. Due to your physical condition, you could not take internships or participate in extracurricular activities. But in compensation, you had excellent communication and leadership skills, and you were very supportive to your fellow students when active in group assignments. And the icing on the cake, you wrote an excellent thesis. You intend to continue your studies when you have your bachelor's diploma in your pocket and take a master program in European law with the hope to work for a European institution. We wish you much success for this future. Dear Stefan, you were awarded the Franz Bing Hannes Stevens Prize 2023 for your essay on circular economy, exploring consumer acceptance of refurbished laptops in the Belgian market. Your thesis was judged to the best of many essays, several of which were outstanding. Let me congratulate you for this performance. Let us imagine to go shopping for a refurbished laptop. What is the consumer looking for before buying one? Obviously the price and the appearance. Contrary to what could be expected, the warranty and the brand image have much less importance. Your thesis gives a solid first-level approach to the subject, and we hope that you'll be able to continue this study after graduation. Last but not least, I would like to thank Louise Bond with all my heart. She sent me all information I requested within short notice. All my best wishes to all of you, and especially to Colin, Diego, and Stefan. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Professor Wien, for your continued support of our students. I think all of them will be very happy with the awards or the thesis prize that they've received. I think the slide here already semi-gives it away. We're coming to the end of the graduation. So dear graduates of the class of 2023, congratulations from all of us. Of course, as with every great moment of celebration, as I'm pretty sure all of you will have one today, comes also time to say goodbye. And of course that also means that we might have to say goodbye later on, but I would first like to start with two other people that I would like to say goodbye to. Two of our faculty members will be leaving the college or the Brussels School at the end of this semester. We have Professor Bernard, who has taught for more than 25 years in our BA in Communications, as well as the course that he gave, the core course on intercultural communication. So Claude will be retiring after, let's say, more than 2 decades of service to the college, and especially service to all of you. Because I think if we look at what Claude did with you, the quality of the work that eventually was generated, thanks to you, but with his support, has been outstanding. And I think with Claude leaving us, we're going to miss a great teacher, but of course we wish him also all the best during his retirement, a well-deserved retirement. So thank you, Claude. Sadly enough, he's also not the only one. Professor Jonas Lefebvre, who has spent the last 7 years with us, and I actually looked it up, but I think he taught so many different courses in communications and also in the master program. Most of them related to research methods, because that's actually what he really likes to do, is to do his research. Will also be leaving us. He will be moving back to Antwerp, where he actually, instead of having to teach you, he will be able to dedicate almost all of his time to his research. So, Jonas, I think you've been an amazing colleague. You've also been paramount in, let's say, quite some reaccreditations over the last few years. So if you're actually leaving today with a fully accredited degree, Jonas is, let's say, one of the main driving forces that made that possible over the last few years. Jonas, your can-do attitude, your collegial approach, and just you will be missed. Thank you so much. I already started off, let's say, these short closing remarks with mentioning a goodbye, but I think I already made it pretty clear from the beginning that it's only a goodbye. We hope to see you again. Soon you will be joining a very distinguished community, the community of the Brussels School of Governance alumni. And that community will be yours for life. We hope that you can take with you some fond memories as you start off your new journey, where it might be finding a job, where you might be continuing your educational career. But also do know that if you leave us today, we're not going to leave you. We have changed all of you over the last few years, and you will see that you will have this unique spirit that we only see within our students and our alumni, which we had also a great event with last year here in Brussels, and we have Charlotte Marie here, who was working on our alumni working, so we actually intend to do a lot more with all of you in the future as well. I can speak from all of the faculty, all of the staff, that we've seen you grow personally, we've seen you grow academically. We've also seen you trying out some of these new things, as has been mentioned by the valedictorian, trying to play around with this ChatGPT thing and so on. That's also why Professor Meyer had to spend almost a week looking at all of your essays. But the fact that you're here today meant that you at least were not one of the students who was really caught with all of this. So it has shown that you're honest, you're dedicated, and you're motivated. And I think the only thing that I really want to convey to all of you, to your parents, to your friends, is that you're ready. You're ready to take the next giant step in your career. You're ready to take on a new chapter. And I have no doubt of that. And I'm really backed in that belief by our faculty and our administration and all of their commitment towards you. As you go forward today, I will leave you with this. The Brussels School of Governance, Vesalius College, they're just names. But in essence, what we do is we create this kind of movement within you. And that movement will be now carried forward by all of you as well. May you even make that movement your own. Congratulations to all of you. Enjoy the reception, and the class of 2023 is hereby dismissed.